So how do we do it? So what we do is we Dave Secor and Jay Rooker basically established this a long time ago, and we know that we have at least two spawning grounds, one in the Med and one in the Gulf of Mexico-ish area. It also extends up into the Slope Sea now, and it's unclear if that's one and the same or different. We know the timing is different, but anyway, at a minimum, we have these two areas, and you can see that the two ellipses have different colors within them. One's a little bit more red, one's a little bit more orange. Those differences are chemical differences in a particular isotope of oxygen called oxygen 18. That isotope gets incorporated into those otoliths, and we can use it because there's differences between the east and the west. We can use that as a marker. So what do? You go out and you catch these really, really tiny bluefins, so small that they can fit in the palm of your hand. And the reason you want to do that is because those small bluefin have not had a chance to move far out of their spawning grounds. And that means whatever signature they have in their otoliths, that signature should be indicative of where they are currently. And that's what you want. You want the signal on the spawning ground because, again, they're technically, unique to each other. So what we do is we catch these little guys and then we cut those otoliths and we mill out what we calculate as the birthmark of the fish, the first few months or several months of the fish's life. We mill that powder out and we analyze it. And what we get are these two ellipses. And the west is the orange and the east is the green. And you look at this and you're like, that doesn't really look like it separates out that good. And you're like, there's a lot of over. It sort of looks like number 6 shot. But truth be told, there's enough separation there that if you do sample enough fish, you can actually start to get a good description of what the stock structure is because these ones in the middle you can throw out. But the ones on the margins out here and out here are the ones that you can concentrate on. And that's why we sample tons and tons and tons and tons of fish because we know some percentage of them are going to have to be thrown out because the probability is more or less like taking a coin out of your pocket and flipping it. We want to make sure that what we're assigning is in fact an eastern or a western fish. And so what we do is we take all the unknowns. The unknowns are the grays. So think of these as like tournament fish. So here you have your western fish and here you have your eastern fish. And then the tournament comes in and we get all of these gray ones and you throw those gray ones on top of this distribution and then you let the computer do its work. And here's what you come out with. So one of Lisa's a colleague of mine at UMaine. She does a lot of the stock structure work. One of her grad students put this together most recently. And what you're looking at here are all of the samples that have been collected, I want to say over a 10 or 12, 10 or 11 year time series. And you'll notice that 60-ish% of all the fish that we catch actually come from the east and around 26, 27% ish of the fish come from the west. And then we have some unassigned. In the situations where you have the unassigned, you can either throw them out, or what you can do is you can retune the model and you can basically you can force it to assign them, in which case you get the graph on the right-hand side, and now you'll see the eastern fish are just a little bit higher, maybe just shy of 70%, 70-ish%, and the western fish are now somewhere around maybe 30%, 35%. Either way, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. If you're asking the question, where do the majority of our fish come from in the Gulf of Maine? The answer is we're heavily subsidized from the east. So a lot of the fish that we catch, whether it's at the tournaments or whether it's at other points during the year, those are eastern fish. They've got a Mediterranean signature. And I've got some tagging data to show you afterwards, which will kind of confirm some of this too. This is looking at the different years. So again, if you want to look on the left, that is west is blue, east is, I don't know what that is, orange-ish, orange tan, and then green is unassigned. And then on the right, we take out those unassigned and we assigned everything. And again, in both cases, you can see there is some variation between years, but by and large, there has been a substantial amount of eastern fish. Although what is interesting is there is a growing trend or an increase in western fish in our fisheries as of late. So that western proportion is in fact starting to climb, and the numbers at the top are indicative of the number of fish that are being analyzed in each year. And 200, 300, 400, 500, that's a very robust number. That's a lot. Some people only do 40 or 50, and we're doing 3 to 5 or 6 times that, just to make sure. Just again, if we want to just look at the giants, so these figures were juveniles and giants. This is just giants, and the signal is very similar. You'll see that most of our fish are, from the Eastern Atlantic, which is again not uncommon, more recently anyway. We've also done this by month. So here's catch month and based and broken down by size. The only thing that I would say to you here is we don't see much difference except for October, and maybe November in terms of the composition. Seems to be more Western fish very at the very tail end of the season. And the other thing is that we do see changes in the composition of Eastern and Western fish as they get older slash longer, such that in general, again, it ebbs and flows, but in general, the older slash longer the fish is, the more likely it is to be a Western fish. So as that fish ages and gets bigger, the more likely it is to be Western. We think, again, based on the tagging data, that a lot of these larger fish make their migration back to the east, and they kind of stay there. Not all the time, by the way, not all the time, but a certain percentage of them do that. And that's probably why we see more of the Western signature as opposed to the Eastern signature as they get older.